Most people think they know what YouTube is. A place to watch videos. You open it, something gets recommended. You watch it, something else gets recommended. You watch that too. And after an hour, or two, or three, or four, you close it and you go do something else. That is not what YouTube is. YouTube is an operable control system. It is a cybernetic ecology, a platform with knobs, dials, and switches that most content consumers never touch, not because they can't, because no one told them the switches existed. This video is about that. Specifically, this video is about the 7 pillars of YouTube. 7 distinct channels of discovery operating simultaneously on the same platform that most people have been using as if there were only a couple, as if there were only one. Knowing all 7 changes how you use the platform, not in some abstract philosophical way, practically, at the level of what you click, what you search, what you subscribe to, and how your algorithm responds to all of it. This is what YouTube actually is. And by the end of this video, the platform is going to look different to you. Let's get into it. As you can see, this is Esoteric 4, a quick pick series, content that we curate on our playlist archive channel, Mr. Pollock 890, P-O-L-I-K 890. So section 1 is the 7 pillars. Let's name them. The 7 pillars of YouTube. Pillar 1, the edge. The edge is a link, a reference. Someone sends you a video. A Discord server drops a clip. A Reddit thread links to a channel. A friend texts you something they think you'd like. A streamer reacts to a video on stream, and now you want to see the original. You didn't go looking for it, it came to you through someone else's intent. That is a distinct channel of discovery, and it is the one most people experience most causally, without ever recognizing it as a pillar. Pillar 2, the recommendation engine. This is what most people mean when they say YouTube, the home screen, the up next queue, the feed that refreshes every time you open the app. The recommendation engine is the pillar the platform has invested the most resources building, because it is the platform's primary retention mechanism. It is optimized for one thing: keeping you on the platform, not finding you the best content, not serving your actual long-term interests, keeping you on the platform. That distinction matters. We'll come back to it. Pillar 3, the LPPV, Linguistic Point Plane Vector, which is a precise way of saying a search term, a word, a phrase, a concept, something you type into the search bar on YouTube when you go looking for something specific. Most people treat search as a fallback, something you use when the recommendation feed isn't giving you what you want. It is not a fallback. The LPPV is one of the most powerful tools on the platform, not just for finding content, but for actively conditioning your entire relationship to YouTube. More on this shortly. Pillar 4, the subscription box. Every channel you subscribe to was a deliberate prior choice. At some point, you made a decision. This creator deserves to publish into my feed. That makes the subscription box categorically different from every other pillar. It is the only channel on YouTube where every single source was chosen by you, not served to you, not recommended to you, not sent to you by someone else. Chosen. Pillar 5, the Shorts feed, the most recent addition to this framework. Before YouTube Shorts existed, we called this the 6 pillars of YouTube. When Shorts arrived, we introduced a 7. The Shorts feed operates with its own algorithmic logic, a faster, more vertical consumption pattern that bleeds back into your broader recommendation engine in ways that most people don't realize they're feeding. Pillar number 6, the library. Every playlist you have ever created, every playlist you have ever saved from another channel, that is your library. Most people never think of their library as a channel of discovery, but it is. Your library is a structured record of every curation decision you have ever made on YouTube, the playlists you've built, the playlists you've found and decided were worth keeping. That is a curated document of your content consumption over time, and it can be returned to, navigated, and used to actively reshape what the algorithm surfaces for you. Pillar 7, watch history. Contained within your library, in a sense, your watch history is one of the most powerful and most ignored tools on the platform. It is a complete itemization of your content consumption intent over time. What have you been watching? Why have you been watching it? What does that pattern reveal about your consumption habits over the past week, past month, past year? Most people never look. And the ones who do look rarely realize they can manage it, intentionally adding and removing entries to actively condition what their recommendation engine surfaces next. 7 pillars: the ed, the recommendation engine, the LPPV, search, the subscription box, the shorts feed, the library, watch history. And most content consumers are consciously using 3, maybe 4 of them. Usually the recommendation engine, sometimes search, maybe the shorts feed, and of course the link or the ed. The rest untouched, which means most people are operating inside a cybernetic ecology with 7 distinct control surfaces and have only ever touched a few. Section 2, home screen versus active navigation. Here is a question worth sitting with. After 30 minutes on the YouTube home screen, scrolling, refreshing, watching what gets served, who made every single decision about what you watched? The algorithm did. Every video, every recommendation, every next click, the platform decided not based on what's best for you, but based on what maximizes the time you spend on the platform. What changes when you start making these decisions yourself? The first thing to understand, you do not need to know exactly where you're going. That is a misconception. Active navigation on YouTube is not about having a specific destination in mind. It's about knowing that there is a way to activate a different mode of content consumption. Here is the technical mechanism. You find a video in your recommendation feed. A title catches your eye. A thumbnail stops your scroll. Instead of clicking it immediately, you take the concept, you take the title, you take the category, and you search it. Not to find that specific video, to find what else exists in that entire category of content. Is it the best piece of content on this topic that's been published? Is there something more recent? Is there something more comprehensive? What else exists in the YouTube hypergraph around this specific idea? That search journey, that is the transformation. And here is why it matters. Beyond just finding better content, every LPPV you run, every search term you type into that search bar leaves a conditioning signal on your recommendation engine, a positive conditioning signal. It tells the platform, this is a topic This is a concept, this is a category of content that I'm actively seeking out. Surface more of it. That is a feature, and you can use it deliberately. On the other side, clicking not interested, clicking do not recommend this channel are two distinct negative conditioning signals with distinct effects on the algorithm. Not interested signals I do not want this specific type of content. Do not recommend this channel signals I do not want anything from this source. Both are control surfaces. Most people tap them out of frustration. Most content consumers use them as precision tools, deliberately shaping what their home screen looks like over time. That's what it means to be an active content consumer. And this is the actual difference between being super served content on YouTube and actively navigating YouTube as a content consumer who understands the system. One is something that happens to you. The other is something that you operate. Section 3, the subscription box. Let's talk about the pillar that changes everything, the subscription box. The subscription box, if you want to understand why it's underutilized by most content consumers, you have to understand how most people actually think about it. Most people, first, a significant number of people think that subscribing to a channel costs money. It doesn't. Memberships cost money. Subscriptions are free. That may sound obvious, but that misconception is a real barrier. For some younger people, and for older people, and for anyone who hasn't had it clearly explained. And YouTube has never done adequate due diligence to make that distinction clear. So the first thing standing between most people and the most powerful pillar on the platform is a misunderstanding about whether it costs anything. It doesn't cost anything. Second, a lot of people feel like the recommendation feed is enough. They've been getting content served to them. It's reasonably good content. Why complicate it? This is a reasonable position if passive content consumption is what you want. But the recommendation feed cannot do what the subscription box does. And to understand the difference, you need to understand what the subscription box actually is. When you subscribe to a content creator, you are creating a hypergraph spoke, a direct edge between you and the creator's publication timeline, not an algorithmic intermediary deciding whether to show you their content, not a recommendation and retention engine weighing your watch history against your engagement patterns to determine whether this creator is worth surfacing to you today. A direct link. As soon as that creator publishes, the moment they hit upload, the moment they hit premiere, that content appears in your subscription box. Not maybe, not eventually, not if the algorithm decides you've been engaged recently enough. Not if the algorithm decides you've been engaged enough recently to deserve it. It appears because you created a direct edge. Think about what that means in practice. Over 1,300 subscriptions means over 1,300 direct edges to content creators publishing across every category of content that matters: natural science, philosophy, geopolitics, crypto culture commentary, financialization, esoteric content, politics, tech and AI, post colonial studies, environment and overshoot culture commentary, markets, and financial culture commentary. High velocity channels publishing every day, low velocity channels publishing once a year. All of it surfacing in the subscription box, not in algorithmic order, not in retention optimized order, but in chronological order, ordered by when it was published. That is what the subscription box provides: a continuity of content, a blanket of direct edges direct links to future pieces of content from over 1,000 minds independently deciding what to put out next. Without that, without those direct edges, you are entirely at the mercy of the recommendation engine. And the recommendation engine, as we've established, is optimized for your retention on the platform, not for surfacing your unknown unknowns, not for expanding your hypergraph beyond the content the algorithm has already learned you consume. Your retention. That is what is built to maximize. Here is what the subscription box becomes when it is properly developed: a newspaper of record, a curated chronological news feed built entirely from the channels you made a deliberate decision to add. Not a feed that happens to you, a feed you built. The subscription box, when developed with intention, is not a convenience feature. It is the backbone of an active content consumer's consume digest, the primary reference surface for what is publishing now, what is worth paying attention to, and what deserves to go into a structured playlist. So why does it remain the most underutilized pillar? Because managing a subscription box requires judgment. You have to be able to look at a channel, its publishing frequency, its niche, its content history, and ask, does this deserve a direct edit? Is what they publish worth having in my feed every time they publish it? That is a curation decision, and most people have never been given the framework to make it. They worry, what if I subscribe and they start publishing bad content? Do I have to unsubscribe? Is that work? What if their publishing rate is too high? It crowds out everything else in my subscription box. What if I subscribe to one video, but I'm not interested in their whole library? These are legitimate concerns, but they are also solvable once you understand what you're actually managing. You're not subscribing to a channel forever. You're creating an edge, and edges can be removed. You're not obliged to watch everything that surfaces in your subscription box. You're expanding your surface area of what's being published in categories that matter to you. The goal is to develop a subscription box that functions like a newspaper of record, where what appears reflects an intentional architecture built by you across every area of content you actually care about. That is what's possible. That is the subscription box at its full potential. Section 4. YouTube as a cybernetic ecology. Take a look at your screen. Esoteric 4, a quick pick series about esoteric content. So YouTube as a cybernetic ecology. Okay, let's put this all together. 7 pillars, each one a control surface, each one conditioning the others. That's what it means to describe YouTube as a cybernetic ecology. Not a platform you sit in front of, a system you operate. Your LPPV inputs, your search terms, condition your recommendation engine. They are positive conditioning signals that tell the algorithm what categories to surface more of. Your subscription box reduces the demand on the recommendation engine to fill your entire feed, which frees it up genuinely to surface content you haven't seen before, content outside of your current filter bubble, content from a wider range of sources than it would otherwise show you. Your watch history conditions your recommendation feed with the content you've actually consumed, which means managing your watch history intentionally, keeping what you want the algorithm to learn from, intentionally removing what you don't, is a direct lever on what your home screen shows you. Your library. your saved playlists, conditions your watch history when you return to consume from it. The end. A link someone sends you introduces content from outside your existing filter bubble, content the algorithm didn't surface, content the algorithm didn't know to surface. The Shorts feed operates its own conditioning loop. That feeds back into your broader recommendation engine, whether you intend to or not. All of these are interconnected. Every pillar you use actively changes what every other pillar surfaces. And most people are living inside this system without knowing a single one of these feedback loops exists. The practical shift. When you stop thinking of YouTube as something that serves you content and start thinking of it as something you operate is significant. You start using playlists deliberately, not just to save things, but to actively use watch time inside playlists as a conditioning signal for the algorithm. You start using search as a conditioning tool, not just a search bar. You use not interested and do not recommend this channel as precision tools, not as irritated taps on a screen. You scroll to the bottom of your recommendation feed and you scroll back up from the bottom to audit what the algorithm has decided to surface. Is this serving my interests? Is this what I actually want to be watching? Gradually, your home screen stops being what YouTube thinks you want and starts being closer to what you actually want. That is the power of understanding YouTube as a cybernetic ecology, knobs, dials, and switches. The developers built access to them into the platform. Most people never learned to use them. Section 5. The cost of the edge and the algorithm. A note on edges. A lot of people, maybe most people, experience YouTube through the recommendation feed and through links. Someone sends them a video, they watch it, they go back to the recommendation feed. That is the loop. Is that passive? Somewhat. But it's worth being precise about this because the edge is not without value. There is an intent behind every link you click. Something drew you to it. Something and someone in your network found it worth sharing. That is not nothing. The edge is a legitimate pillar of discovery. The cost isn't in using the edge. The cost is in using the edge and the algorithm as your only two channels and never running a single search. Because every LPPV you don't run, every search you don't conduct is a conditioning signal you didn't send, a surface area you didn't claim back. The recommendation engine learns from your searches. It learns from your subscriptions. It learns from your library. It learns from your watch history. If you're only feeding it your passive viewing behavior, it can only learn your passive viewing behavior. And it will serve you more of the same indefinitely because that is what it is built to do. Every search you run is a signal. You're telling the platform something about what you're curious about, something that might not have surfaced yet in your recommendation feed. And that signal shifts the contours of what you get served going forward. That is the cost of never going looking. You never condition the algorithm toward anything you haven't already watched. Section 6, the audit. I want to do something that I think is genuinely useful here. I want to tell you how I personally use these 7 pillars. Because before I ask you to audit yourself, the honest thing to do is to model the audit. Primarily, my primary is the subscription box. That's where I start. Over 1,300 subscriptions. a chronological news feed of everything publishing across every category I care about. That is my primary reference surface. Primary sec is the recommendation engine. Because my subscription box is so developed, my recommendation feed actually reflects it. Channels I subscribe to show up in my home screen recommendations. I use that as a signpost to see what's actually being surfaced from channels I've already chosen. And another primary is my watch history. Now, secondarily is the YouTube search, the LPPV. I use it. Not often as I should, that's honest. There are weeks where I'm so deep inside my subscription box and my recommendation feed that I'm not running searches. And that's a gap. Because the search conditioning signal is one of the levers I'm not pulling as regularly as the methods demands. Because the search conditioning signal is one of the levers I'm not pulling as regularly as the method demands. Secondary, the edge, links and references from outside the platform, legitimately useful, not my primary, so it's interesting to think about. Tertiary, the library. This is where I'll be transparent. I underutilized this pillar, the pillar of the library. I have the playlists. I have the architecture, but I don't return to saved playlists as deliberately as full engagement with the method would suggest I should. Last, the shorts feed. The shorts feed is the one that I use the least, deliberately. The shorts feed can condition your recommendation engine in directions that aren't always in alignment with what I want to consume. So my engagement with it is intentional and limited. That is my audit. Now here's the question for you to sit with. If you ran that same audit on yourself, right here, right now, which 3 to 4 pillars are you using? Which 3 to 4 are you leaving untouched? What would your experience on YouTube look like if you started treating all 7 as control surfaces in a system you were actually operating? The close. What YouTube actually is. Here's what YouTube actually is. Not a video platform, an operable control system. A cybernetic ecology with 7 distinct channels of discovery operating simultaneously. The ED, the recommendation engine, the LPPV, the subscription box, the shorts feed, the library, watch history. Most people are consciously using 3, maybe 4 of them. And now you know all 7. Algorithm delivers content. What we're building it as an aggregator is the context, the method for how to consume it with more agency, more discernment, and more continuity than the platform was designed to give you. If you want to see what that looks like in practice, go to Mr. Pollock 890, Mr. Polik 890. That is our playlist archive channel. If you're new and you don't know where to start, go to the Start Here playlist. It's built for this exact moment. If you already know what you're looking for in our playlist archive, browse the playlists that are publicly available or go to the unlisted videos in the posts section. There is content across every category we've discussed in this video and many more, including the content you see on your screen. This is where you've seen the content. This is where the content lives. This is why we perform as an aggregator to direct people to the content that we curate. This is what YouTube actually is. This is part 2 of part 10. We'll see you in part 3.